Hi, Up With People world. My name is Donna Reed, and I traveled in Up With People in 1976. And this morning, for Paul Caldwell, just so you know, I have put one of my paintings behind me that actually has cactus in it because he thinks if we're in the cactus lounge, there should be cactus. So there you go. And my guest this morning, her name shows up here as Jessica Degraff. However, many of you know her as Jessica Rojas. So I think online she's got like 5 names. I'm not even sure.
I know. I have multiple personalities, multiple names.
I love it. I love it. So Jessica, welcome. Thank you for agreeing to do this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. So I always or typically start out with when did you first learn about Up With People? How did you learn about it?
So I first learned about it's really funny because I had no idea what Up With People was my entire life, and I grew up in Tucson and I never heard of it in my whole life. And then um, when I was at PIMA, I was a junior in college, and I had a friend that had gone to a fundraiser for somebody who was traveling in a January cast. I think it was January of '07, so it probably would have been A. And
Okay.
he was like, "You have to join this thing. I have no idea what it is, but like it's perfect for you." And he like basically like championed me to apply.
Oh, that's awesome.
And yeah, I have no
Did you go
clue.
to the show then? Did you hear a show or see
No,
it?
I didn't because I was back then I was working in a restaurant. I because I used to be in mariachi growing up.
Yeah.
It's a big thing here in Tucson. And so
Yeah.
I was working that night when there was a show, and so I couldn't go. And so I'd never even seen a show. I watched the like back then the video was not very informational, but I watched it.
Okay.
And so yeah, so then and it took me a while to fill out the application. I think it took me like a month because I was just like, I don't know, and my parents would kill me if I did this. And so
Oh,
yeah, I had no clue what Up With People was until I think until my staging.
oh my
Really.
gosh, that's so funny. Okay, so I'm gonna state the obvious here. I would say that 99.9% of the people who are watching this know that you are blind, right?
Right.
So and you use the verb, I didn't see a show. And this is something that I found working with you when we were looking at houses, the way
Oh
that
yeah.
so I don't know I have no idea if you're able to see anything. Are you able to see shadows or tell everyone? So when you say you didn't see a show, you didn't hear a show,
No, I
right?
mean, yeah. I mean, but to me, like to see something is to physically be present in what is happening. So like
Okay.
it's
Okay.
not like I'm watching something like physically, like
Yeah.
completely with my eyes, but I'm experiencing it, and
Got it.
and I'm listening to it, and I'm feeling. I mean, I'm using my other
Yeah.
senses to like experience something. And like I think the reason I use verbs like see, because I have no vision, no vision, so I don't have any shadows or light perception. I can sometimes see really bright light, but it's a very like very little, and I haven't seen very much of that since I was a kid. So um,
Okay.
I I think growing up, I went to public school. I was surrounded by people who could see. I
Yeah.
didn't really know another blind person until I was maybe 16 or 17, and so I guess I just used that verbiage like everybody else
Yeah.
to
No, no,
freak
no.
people out.
No, it's super interesting. And to be honest, everyone, I helped Kyle and Jessica buy their house, and she would tell me what her favorite color was. And I was like, how do you know that's your favorite color? Which
Yeah,
just
I'm lucky that I have a family that was very like they were very aware that I didn't know what things look like, and they wanted to make sure I understood like color and or tried to understand color. It's a very difficult thing to
yeah.
explain to a blind person, but
Yes, exactly.
um, color and shades and things that clothing, things that match and stuff like that. So yeah.
Interesting. Oh my gosh, that's okay. So then when did you first travel? When
So
did you first
I traveled my first semester in 2007 in July. So I was part of the double cast semester.
okay.
So I was in B. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then I am trying to remember when I met you because you already mentioned about the mariachi, and I was in Mexico City in 2009 with a
Yes.
cast, and were you there with that group? Paul?
Yeah, I was there. It was my last. I used to, because I would do sometimes Mexico cast, like a
Right,
special event or whatever,
right.
with 5-week tours, and so I think that was my last one that I did. Maybe
Okay. Okay.
was 2009.
And
Yeah.
I remember hearing you um hold a note for like, 37 minutes. No, just
It
like,
feels like
yeah,
37 minutes.
I'm like, she should be out of breath by now. Type of thing. And it's also kind of funny. I just have to tell the people that are listening. So I have a friend, Jesse Rojas, who actually is also a mariachi, Jessica. And I was sending Jessica a message about this interview, but I sent it to Jesse.
Yeah, Jesse and I actually went to high school together, and we were in the mariachi at Pueblo together. So we had
That's
classes together. Like we used to hang out all the time. So
That is so it's just the small world, Tucson. And thinking,
yeah,
okay, there's 1 million to 2 million people here, but that still happens, right? So
it's crazy.
that's very cool. Very cool. All right. So you traveled. Did you ever work as staff, or did they just bring you in for special events? Because I do
Oh
remember seeing you at many events.
yeah, I mostly was special events, and I guess maybe like a support staff maybe, but because I got, I got treated like staff sometimes. It was a very thin line, but yeah, I was mostly there for like singing and production help and things like that in
Okay.
Mexico. And then I think I did one like tour through the East Coast, like when we were in DC, for because they were doing a lot of shows at embassies, and they wanted mariachi, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Mexico is always represented in our shows, right?
oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, tell me what it was like for you, and maybe a host family experience, when you were traveling on the road. Did a host family have to know in advance that they were going to have someone who is a blind student? And did you ever have any weird situations or really great situations from that perspective?
Yeah, so actually it's funny because I didn't know these things until I actually got to do advanced work in Texas my second semester. So thank you for letting me know these things because I would not know how to answer this question. But I, because when you're a student, it's like a whole different bubble, right? Like you just kind of go with the flow, and you don't really
Yeah.
think about like, oh, these people probably know things about me that maybe they like, I always went into it assuming people didn't know,
Ah,
and
interesting.
sometimes they would act like they didn't know. And sometimes they'd be like, oh yeah, they told us. So it just depended, I think, on the situation. But so I think that my host families did know that I was blind in advance, and I always had a roommate, so I was never alone.
I wondered about that.
I
Okay.
Yeah, and I thought I was kind of annoyed when I heard about that, but I get why, because maybe it just helped host families feel a little bit better about having a blind student. I mean, it could be really scary if you've never
Yeah.
experienced it before, and there's a lot of stigmatisms out there, or there's a lot of thoughts about what that means to be blind and what you
Yeah.
can and can't do. And so I was lucky. I had some really great host families. um, my host family in Colorado, in Denver, I still keep in touch with them. They're great. And my host family in San Diego, I had Tim and Randy. Hello, if you're watching, because I think Tim is a with people alum. They were awesome. I had some really, really good experience. I also had bad ones. There was a host family in Thailand that was a little weird. They were not
We
there
all
a lot.
we all had those, Jessica. Whether we could
But
see
yeah,
the weird one.
I don't think I was the only one that had. So I mean, and that's the thing. Like some things were great and some things were not so great, but I wasn't the only person experiencing the not so great. And I think that helped me to not
Yeah.
feel like, oh, it's because they
Yeah.
don't know what to do with me. And there were times when the host families would be like, oh, well, you can stay downstairs since you can't climb stairs. Like that was always my favorite thing. Like, okay. I can climb
Sorry.
stairs.
I shouldn't laugh because at age 65, I'd be grateful to not have to climb stairs. but
yeah, but it
it's
was
really
a great, I mean,
interesting. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah. I was just gonna say it was a good experience. I think it helped me learn a lot about myself to live with all these different people, especially like, in the smaller towns that we visited where people had no idea, never, ever, ever even thought they would ever meet a blind person. So it was
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah. I can't remember if I told you this because this was sort of happening while we were looking at houses, but
Oh,
one of my high school friends is deaf, and
oh,
been chatting a lot on Facebook Messenger, and I do a lot of voice to text. So one day I just left this
oh,
really long voice message, and Brent types back and says, "Still deaf." And it was
oh
just,
my
it was super funny. I was like, oh yeah, you can read what I write to kids.
God.
Oh God, it just cracked me up, and I saw him when I was there last summer, and I'm like, so the things that we don't think about, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and there's always gonna be stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
oh, sorry.
Yeah. All right. So when you traveled, do you have any favorite songs that from your show that you remember, or special music that was put in Mexico or something? Is there anything that you loved?
Oh man, that Mexico medley was always so fun. Like it was always a blast because it was like a bunch of like popular songs in Mexico, and I knew like most of them because a lot of them were in like novelas and stuff. And my grandma, she watches novelas, so I was like, oh, I know that one. Oh, I know that one. Oh yeah.
Songs from
So
novellas.
yeah, some of them were like the Rebelde song, but yeah, like that was
Yep.
always fun. And I think also for me because Mexico, I had been to Mexico before because my family's from Mexico, and I we traveled there a lot, or a few times growing up. And so for me, the European cities were always really cool because I never even dreamed that I'd ever go to Europe or even the
Yeah.
Philippines. And so like whenever we got to sing in German or Belgian or Dutch or Flemish or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever the language, Italian, like it was always so cool for me. So
That's
yeah,
neat.
I
That's
yeah,
neat.
it was
I one time sang for a Chinese client here in Mandarin, one of the songs, and he just started talking to me and goes, "Oh, you speak," and I'm like, "No, I know
oh,
one song."
not quite the
I
same thing.
don't even really know what I just said, but that's too funny. All right. And so when did you meet Kyle?
So I met Kyle in 2008. We traveled together in it was '08, so it would have been January. And I
Okay.
think he was one of the first people I met because I will I don't I was we were at the Sherman Center, and I don't know why I was going in the elevator. I don't know why, but for some reason somebody was like, you need to take the elevator. And usually I was sometimes I would argue, but most of the time I was like, okay, fine, like whatever. So I and he was going in the elevator, and he was like, oh, I'll help you in the elevator. And I was like, I really hate elevators, but okay. Because I don't like elevators. They freak me out actually. And so yeah, we met in the elevator at the Sherman Center.
That's
And I
funny.
guess we never looked back.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And for those of
Yeah, but
you that don't know, Kyle Degraff's parents, Chris and Kathy, both traveled and met and up with people. I'm going to say without knowing for sure, but I'm pretty sure they did. So that
yeah.
they're part of this whole legacy gang. And did Kyle's sister travel also? I think
Yeah, I think she
yeah.
traveled in A07.
Okay. Okay. Around the same time. So
Yeah.
all right. So fast forward, you've helped at reunions. I've seen you at different reunions and things
Mhm.
like that. And tell everybody what you're doing now. What do you do for work now?
So I work at Savvy Services for the Blind here in Tucson. We're basically a rehabilitation center for people who are blind and visually impaired adults. I teach Braille, so I teach people how to read and write Braille, which is the code that we use as blind people to read the dots. And so I do that, and I also sometimes teach independent living skills, so cooking, home management, and things like that. And I also work sometimes in the children and youth program. So on the weekends, on Saturdays, we do events for some of the kids in the community that are blind. So, for example, I didn't go to this because I don't know why, but last weekend we took them to the pumpkin patch. I think I was out of town.
Oh,
last weekend they took them to the pumpkin patch and they got to pick pumpkins and then, do all the corn maze and all this stuff. And then they went to Peter Piper and had pizza and just,
Nice.
had a cool outing with their families. And so, yeah, it's a really cool, I never would have thought if you had asked me when I was, because I think when I traveled, I was like 2021.
Right.
So I was young, very young, and I would have never ever thought that I would ever be teaching Braille of all things to adults of all people.
Yeah. Did you learn Braille as a young person? Because you talked about going to public school. So
Yeah, so I did. I learned Braille probably in like the second grade. And then I was pretty good at it for
I was
because
pretty
it was
good
the
at
only
it.
it's really it's so important for people who are blind to know Braille because it's really our only form of literacy. I mean, even if you have a computer and you can read audiobooks, it's not the same thing, it's it's like if
Yeah.
you didn't know how to read print, but you listen to audiobooks all the time. Like people would be
That's
like,
true.
"What? Why don't you know how to read?" And it's kind of the same thing. And so that's part of my job is to try to convince people that it's really important for them to know.
Right. Right.
Because yeah, you don't want to be illiterate.
Okay. No kidding. So when I send you a Facebook message, how do you get
Uh-huh.
that message?
Yeah, so I have an iPhone, and so on the iPhone, there's a setting in the accessibility settings called VoiceOver. And so if you turn that on, it will uh, read everything that you are tapping on the screen. So like when I tap something, it'll say like Donna Reed sent you a message, right? And so then I can read the messages, I can scroll through them, and then I can actually type in the text box because well, there's two ways I can do that. So the first way is I can tap the letter and then double tap it and it'll type it into the text box and it'll say it as I'm typing so that I know where I am on the screen. But
Okay.
another cool thing that I learned actually during the pandemic, because we were still working during the pandemic and it was virtual, and I was trying to figure out ways to connect with my students that didn't have Braille materials because we didn't always have a way to give them materials. And a lot of them are in rural areas in the state. And so everybody had to go home. So I taught myself how to do the Braille screen input. So basically, what that means is your screen turns into like a Braille keyboard. So
Oh, cool.
your hands are like this, like they're on your screen, and you're typing the combinations of Braille dots using your fingers on the screen.
Wow. I've
Yeah,
always wondered. No, first of all,
yeah.
it's exhausting. It sounds like a lot of work.
It's not. Once you get used to it, it's actually really easy to do. Way faster
Nice.
than touch typing and figuring out where your letters are. Because man, that can take
Yeah,
forever.
yeah.
You can also dictate too, but sometimes I don't want to be like I'll be in my class and typing, and I'll be like, I don't need everybody to hear my messages right now. So
Good point. Yeah. I think we all need to be aware of that. Because
yeah.
we all send messages. Well, like this morning, I sent you the number 5, like with the little 4 next to it, like
Oh yeah, I was so confused. I was like, is that a
5 to the
code or
4th
something?
power.
That I have no
I
idea
had,
what that meant. So
no,
I'm
me
glad it was
neither.
an
I was like,
accident.
well, I don't even know how I did it. So there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
So,
I do that
all
all the
right.
time. So
And you and Kyle sing a lot.
yeah.
Do
Mhm.
I understand, are you singing at a church right now together?
Yeah, so we are actually singing. So we're singing at Casa Sadove's United
Church of
Congregational
Christ?
Church of Christ.
Congregation. Yeah, yeah. On
Yes.
Oracle Road, right?
Yeah. And so
Okay.
Kyle actually gets paid. He's a staff singer. I'm not, but I go because
Why not?
yeah, I think that was better to do. So we sing there on Sundays, and then we also sing with the Tucson Masterworks Chorale. We are both staffed there. So actually, our concert is coming up on the 19th of November.
Is that a
I'm
holiday
terrible.
one? Is that like
You
a big
it's kind of a holiday that's called Songs of Peace. It's actually quite up with people-esque if you think about it.
nice?
So they're doing a bunch of songs that talk about peace. And for example, we're doing one from considering Matthew Shepard, who was
Ooh,
the guy in Wyoming that passed away, was very
yeah.
brutally murdered. And they like wrote this whole concert, or I don't know if it's a musical. I don't know a lot about it, but we're singing a song from that piece.
Nice.
And yeah, it's lots of things like that. It's gonna
Very
be really
cool.
good. It's gonna. I wish I had more information. I know it's at 3 at Grace St. No, Grace
Somewhere.
St. Paul's. Grace St. Paul's Episcopal Church. Thank you, Kyle.
Oh, see, Kyle's in the background, you guys, in case you've been hearing another voice, he's working on another computer and I'm just pretending he's not there. Kyle.
I know. Same. Me too.
It's funny.
Yes. So Grace St.
So-
Paul's Episcopal Church, 3 o'clock Sunday, November 19th.
Okay, very cool, very cool. And I also, didn't you just do something with Tommy Spalding again?
Yeah, we just sang for Tommy Spalding, his women's leadership retreat.
Nice.
It was last Thursday actually, in Scottsdale. We did
Okay.
like a whole show. It was really fun. It's really cool working with Kyle because we're both really good at like putting together. He's really good at putting together like a show and like making it, and he's really good at talking to people. I'm not always so great at talking to people.
You're pretty darn good, girl. Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
So he's really, really good to. It's really fun to work with him, and it helps that we like each other a lot. So that
There's that.
lots of duet singing, and yeah, very very cool pieces that we get to do when we don't have to sing with churches and community choirs, and we can have a little bit more fun. So
I have asked my pastor if I could do, I'm going to call it a sermon, but I can't really do a sermon. I can just talk. And if I do it, I'm going to ask you guys to come sing.
Because, yeah, we'd love to.
Yeah, because I really want to do some of the things related to what's happening in our world and how it compares biblically. And there's so many Up With People songs that go with that. And I'm like, I'm going to ask just so
many.
It may not happen until the winter months because of another knee surgery for me and stuff like that. But just put it in your little brain that I might be.
Yeah, I will pass it along.
yeah, might be doing that. So, all right. I also want to ask, because I almost ask everybody this. Do you have a favorite place that you traveled?
Oh man. Okay. I mean, it's hard for me because every place that I went to was so different, and I enjoyed all of the things that I experienced, whether they were good or bad. But I think my favorite place is probably Italy.
Okay.
I was really happy because the first time we went to Milan, and I was so jet lagged that I don't even know if I remember it. It was it was my first time out of the country, and it was so like overly stimulating that and then I got really sick towards the end of the week, and that was another story. But but it was so cool. Like my host family was so awesome. I had 3 really cool roommates that week, and we got to sing in Italian. I got to sing Up With People, Viva la Gente, and it was so fun. But then and I was like, I want to go back because I just didn't feel like I got to experience. Like I wanted to experience more of Italy, especially because I was raised Catholic, and like it's very important place. And so when I got to sing with when we did the show for the Andrea Bocelli concert, that was like I got to spend 2 weeks in Italy because we stayed later, and I got to go to Rome, and we were in Florence, and oh my God, I just love Italy.
No, that's super cool. I was so jealous about not being able to get that.
Man, it was such an experience. Like I just the whole time it was so great. My parents got to go, and my brother, and they got to see the show, and it was. I was dating someone else at the time who went, and that was cool too. Yeah, but it was such a cool experience for like my whole family to get to go, and it just happened so fast. But I'm really glad that I got to experience it with them, and then we stayed and got to go to Rome and got to meet the Pope, and I never ever dreamed in my whole life that I would ever meet the Pope. So
yes, Up With People does afford some opportunities that one would never expect, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, if you had asked me on the day of my high school graduation, if I thought that I would be here, I'd be like, I don't know. Maybe I'll go to Tombstone.
to travel to Tombstone.
Maybe I'll go to California. I don't know. Like it just
Oh,
never, I always wanted to travel the world, but I never thought I would actually ever get to travel. So
what
it was,
an
um,
what
yeah,
an
I'm really glad
awesome,
I got to
awesome
experience it.
opportunity. And I want to go back to something unrelated to Up with People, but related to something else that I've learned about you and that you already mentioned is about cooking and recipes. So once again, there is me who doesn't really measure anything, and I never know where my spices are. And as you were looking at your kitchen and buying your home, it was very important for you to know where you could put things because you like to cook, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, so how do you, by the way, we just got the 10-minute warning, just so you know.
Oh,
Where,
okay.
how do you organize your space? And particularly to me, the spices. How do you organize the spices to even
Yeah,
know?
so it's still kind of a work in progress, but my spice drawer is beautiful. I love it. So basically what I did is I got like these little mason jars
Mhm.
for my spices, and I labeled them with the name of the spice in Braille, and then my mom, she put a print label on the bottom because Kyle's here and he doesn't read Braille.
He doesn't
He's
read
working
Braille,
on it.
so he doesn't know what
He
cinnamon
doesn't
is.
know,
Right.
but also like, Chris and Kathy, when they come to stay with us, they will
Yeah.
probably want to cook. And I'm sure Kathy will want to, and
Yeah.
she might want to know what spices are which, so it should not just be a secret for me only. So
Yeah.
we made these braille and print labels, and
You
then
can
I
mix
I
them
put them in
all
a
up. You can mix them
yeah.
all up, Jessica. Just, you know.
Sometimes I think maybe that would be a fun thing for me, but maybe not for other people. So I won't do that. But
Yeah.
oh man, sorry, Kathy. I hope you don't watch this. I love you. But so I put them all in a drawer and I lined them up on like this little rubber pad so they don't roll around. And it's
Yep.
literally the best thing ever because we don't have a lot of like up cabinet space
Right.
by our stove. And um my mom actually came up with the idea to put them in a drawer, and it's nice because I can just reach down, pick it up, look at the
Yeah.
label, it's right there. And then I did the same with like all of my um well, I'm doing the same with all of my like flour and sugar and like those kind of things.
Okay.
Just making labels and just labeling everything that I can. And then eventually my pantry, right now it looks like a mess, but eventually I'm going to organize that so like everything is in a specific place because it's just nice to like, I could search for things and it's fine. I mean, things were not always organized growing up in a way that made sense to me. So I'm
Right.
used to that. But if I'm going to be in there, like I just want to know where things are, and
Yeah.
so does everybody. So
No,
yeah, so
that was super important when we were looking at houses. I remember that, and especially with your kitchen
yeah,
and stuff, that you wanted to know where things are. And I, since I don't live in a world of 100% organization, it's the reason that I have a fake background behind me instead of showing you the real room.
oh no, like, I
Yeah,
get it.
it's it's just so interesting to learn, how people
Yeah,
adapt, how they grow, how they succeed in a world that's just slightly different for them than it is for everybody else, right?
yeah,
So
yeah. We make it work.
yeah.
Kindness
All right.
isn't the thing that defines who I am. It's just a
No,
characteristic. So I just try to just work around it.
I know, absolutely. I totally see that. Okay, one last thing. Did you have a favorite food that you ate on the road, or something horrific that you would never eat again?
um, okay. Trying to think. I don't remember anything scary. I think I ate pig's blood once in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't know that it was pig blood or some
Okay.
sort of. It was actually really good. Like
In
I'm,
like a soup,
it was
like a
like in like a stew, like with rice and meat chunks,
oh,
I think. And
okay.
we were in the military base at in Baguio in the
Mhm.
mountains, and we stayed. We ate with them, and we ate whatever they ate in their chow hall, and I don't know what it was. It was really good. And then somebody was like, "You're eating pig's blood, right?" And I was like, "Well, well, it's delicious." So I
Thanks for
guess.
telling me afterwards,
Thank you.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, and so from then on, I was like, maybe I just don't always need to know what it is. I'm just gonna just not ask
Awesome.
sometimes when I'm not sure, and then I just yeah, because
Yeah.
it was really good. A lot of the food, but oh my god, I ate so many good foods. I'm
Nice.
like the pickiest. It was so scary because I'm a really even back then like I was such a picky eater, like so picky. I had to grow out of that really quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. Right. Right.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, the first week I was there, my host family was making like casseroles and things, and I was like, I don't need any of this stuff, but okay, here we go.
Here we go.
I don't want to starve.
All right, so I have to ask one last question. Based on how Up With People is evolving now, and how like the whole tour, the first tour has been in like Latin America and Central America and stuff, and you're working with young people. Would you still encourage, or could you encourage someone that you're working with who has the same lack of vision that you have to consider traveling with Up With People? What might you say to that young person?
I would say to them, it's a really cool experience. It's very different now than when I traveled, in the sense that maybe it's not as long.
Yeah.
So maybe it's better because it fits better into their schedule. A lot of students that we get that are younger want to go to school, they want to go to college.
Yeah.
And when I was growing up, a gap year was not a thing. So
No.
it's really, I definitely would say take a gap year and maybe think about this, because it's going to change your life. You're going to get to experience a lot of cool things in a lot of different places that you maybe never thought you'd ever go. And it's going to be hard, and it's going to be fun, and it's going to make you cry a lot probably.
Yeah.
But it's going to change your life. So
Nice.
yeah, check it out.
Nice. All righty, I am going to wrap this up. I will let you know when I make it public. I think there's one other one, but before you. And thank you so much for doing this. I have had, as you know, struggled to get young people to spend the time.
I know. I'm sorry.
It's okay. We got her done. So yeah. And I got to get over and see the house. I'm anxious to see it now that you guys are living.
Oh yeah, yes, you got to come over.
Yeah,
and we're excited for your cutting board. So
I know. Those, believe it or not, many are in the back seat of my car, 3 or 4 of them.
Oh, okay.
So
Well, you can drop it by.
So, yeah, I will. All right, Jess. Thanks. I'm going to stop the recording. Okay.
Cool. Thank you.